TheRewindSports60.com.
Clarkism, Thoughtful Thursday by the creative thought scientist. A dime a dozen? We've all heard that before, but here's the thing. Good people are not a dime a dozen. They are the key to your organization's success. Find them and hold on to them. Good people. Go get it. I'm your guy, D. Clark, motivated and blessed. Soak it up. I am.
Relax. Reset. Rejuvenate. Go to our link right now to restart your life. TheRewindSports60.com. What are you waiting for? Hope to see you soon. The Rewind Sports 60. TheRewindSports60.com.
It's the freshest radio show in town. Feeling marvelous, I've been with Jerry Rouse. It's the freshest radio show in town. Feeling marvelous, I've been with Jerry Rouse. WCPT. WCPT.
This the coldest sports show. You were getting the hour from 6 p.m. to 7. Chillin' with Lauren Cox and the man Marvelous. Shout out to Mr. Rouse and the Italian style. You what sports is the only politic.
WCPT. WCPT. It's the freshest radio show in town. Feeling marvelous, I've been with Jerry Rouse. It's the freshest radio show in town. Feeling marvelous, I've been with Jerry Rouse.
Another fairy tale ride is underway for Loyola Chicago and head coach Porter Moser. On their way to the Sweet 16, and we've lost a number 1 seed for the first time in this tournament. First game of the second round.
Where we came from, 10 years ago, to moving up into the Missouri Valley, and then, the last 6 years, and just I kept on saying it. I go, I just feel like this has a high ceiling, and what you can do when you get a group of people believing. But to see the excitement, I was told this a lot when I took the job 10 years ago, and they said it's a pro town, it's a pro town, and I said I'm from here. I said it's a sports town. It's a sports town. They love their sports. And watching the passionate fan base with Illinois and what they've done all year, it's great to see the programs here get excited about it, and to see Chicago get behind our team. They've embraced us for years now, and it means a lot. Wanted to be relevant. You want to have the excitement. And basketball is very rich traditions in Chicago and the state of Illinois. And I thought today you saw 2 ranked teams go at it, and but it means a lot for Loyola. Where we were to where we are now, and we're not done. So it means a lot.
We're on a mission from God. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Rewind Sports 60. We're streaming live on Facebook, broadcasting from the world's famous illustrious studios of WCPT 820 AM in the beautiful, beautiful city of Chicago in the outstanding neighborhood of Jefferson Park. Ladies and gentlemen, this is another edition of the Rewind Sports 60, and the head coach for your Loyola Ramblers, Porter Moser, said it. This isn't a pro town. This is a sports town. Congratulations to the Rambling Ramblers moving on to the Sweet 16 in the March Madness NCAA tournament, ladies and gentlemen. And we are so deeply sorry for Illini Nation. This is March Madness, but for teams like the University of Illinois Fighting Illini, teams like the Ohio State Buckeyes, teams like Texas, the Longhorns, and many other, it's better known as March Sadness. This is the fastest hour in sports conversation. Our number here is 773-763-9278, 773-763 WCPT, Jerry Riles. And let's go to our esteemed panel, ladies and gentlemen. You love her. She's fantastic. She's outstanding. She's dynamic. She's beautiful. Witty. She's intelligent. And she can do some sideline reporting as well. Ladies and gentlemen, she's the co-host of the Rewind Sports 60 here in studio. She's the one and the only. She's Lauren Cox. What's up, Lauren? How are you?
Well, she's disappointed today because you know what I said. I said my biggest nightmare would be if these two teams would have to play each other. And lo and behold, my biggest nightmare came true today. But you know, it was an interesting game. Can't wait to get into it. But March Madness has been fun and a great relief while we're going through this worldwide pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, March Madness, thank goodness. And unfortunately, there's one team for sure, but maybe there are a couple other teams that had to bail out because of the virus. But ladies and gentlemen, he's not over at Wrigley Field. Not quite yet. He may be one of those 82, 83, 8500 people over at the friendly confines when baseball regular season starts. He's not over at guaranteed rate to see the future World Series champion Chicago White Sox. Ladies and gentlemen, he's not even at the United Center to watch the Bulls take on the Detroit Pistons tonight over there on West Madison Street, or the Blackhawks. He's not even over at Wintrust Arena to watch the DePaul Blue Demons, who are looking for a head basketball coach. He's in the studios. You love him. He's the marvelous one. He's Dan Marver. What's up, Marver? How are you?
Fine, Jerry. How are you?
I'm doing good for the most part.
Hey.
Well, the final score was Loyola 71, Illinois 58. They led wire to wire, and you heard from Jim Nance and Porter Moser. Who was the third one? Was that
courtesy CBS?
Yeah, was that Sister Jean? Was the last one?
Sister Jean.
Yes.
101 years of age.
Yeah, she was in the building. I have to really say that what Porter Moser's game plan and the execution of it was unbelievable.
Oh,
I thought that at the post they would have be different scenario. I don't think the Crutwood would be able to do as well as he did. And in fact, DeSumo, Williamson shut him down. He got 9 points. It seemed like perhaps Illinois would, recover and come back in the second half. All the analysts at the table with our Buckeye and our Red Hawk together, and
Wally Zerbiak and
with Gumbel
Clark
and
Kellogg.
Yeah, right. Gumbel and Davis. And I think they're an excellent team, by the way, analysts. But be that as it may, it didn't change. They all thought Illinois. They said Illinois is probably going to come back, but it did not happen. And Baylor won today, but there were other things. Ohio U defeated Virginia.
Yeah, congratulations.
The little MAC, and they were the number 5 seed in their own MAC tournament. So if you get hot at the right time, this is what happens. It's just a one game, so anything can happen. And with the possibility of people being sick now, Virginia Commonwealth, you mentioned, had a bow out of the tournament, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And hopefully there won't be any more now.
No, it's unfortunate for those teams. And their coach, their head coach, he said, hey, you know what? The kids did everything they were supposed to do. They followed protocol.
Sure.
They were responsible. So don't get the idea that they were being irresponsible. No. It's just that someone came in contact and that's all it takes is one, and that's all she wrote. And unfortunately, they had to bail out.
That's right, Jerry. And there's a little bit of confusion. A lot of people think that the next round is Thursday, Friday, but it is not.
Right.
The next round is Saturday, Sunday, and then the Elite Eight is Monday, Tuesday, leading up to the Saturday. In the past, it's been all different, obviously.
Of course.
But Loyola's next game will be Saturday. They're going to play games, a doubleheader on CBS at 1, and then at night at 6 o'clock on TBS. So they'll be in one of those windows on next week.
And I actually like the format that's laid out now, because we have games tomorrow on Monday. Sunday.
Right.
As a
all
matter
day,
of fact,
right.
yeah. So I actually like it that way.
Sure.
For the simple fact that we're kind of like in limbo. Of course, we have pro
Right.
sports. We talked about the Bulls, the Blackhawks, and National Hockey League is going on. But on a Monday night, we don't have Monday Night Football, and the Bachelor is over with, so
Right.
there's nothing to watch there. So we get an opportunity,
Right.
Lauren, to watch some college basketball. So I actually do like the format. The unfortunate and disappointing thing regarding this tournament, the Big Ten teams.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're supposed to be the big house, the power, the big conference. I mean, we just kick everybody in the ass. We get 9 teams in there, and then what happens? The rest of the country said, "Oh, you know what? We can play basketball too."
Iowa's still alive, Maryland and Rutgers, but Michigan, but that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. And of course, it started with Michigan State, the play-in game on the Thursday night, and Coach Tom Izzo, that was a buzz all around social media. Well, he's pulling his star player more as they go into the tunnel at halftime, and there were two different sides to this story, Lauren. I'm watching, was it a TBS with Kenny, Ernie, and Chuckles, and Charles Barkley is like, hey, you know what? That's basketball. You don't walk away from your parents. You don't walk away from your coach. Kenny Smith is like, hey, wait a minute. You don't grab a kid like that. You're not allowed to be pulling on a kid's jersey like that and pointing that finger and yelling at him.
Unless you're Mike Ditka or Knight.
Exactly. So there are two sides to this coin, and I think old school athletes, old school sports fans, they side with what Charles Barkley said, hey, you respect your parents, you respect your coaches, and you don't walk away. You don't ignore them. Yeah. But new school, I think, they say, hey, wait a minute. You can't grab me. You can't touch me. But that's Tom Izzo's style, if you've been watching Michigan State basketball. What do you take from that, Lauren Cox?
I think it's interesting because I don't know if you guys know, like the gospel single Kirk Franklin.
Yes.
He cursed his 33-year-old son out, and his son posted it. And
I saw it on Tamara Hall's show.
Absolutely.
I love you, Tamara. We miss you here in Chicago.
Come back.
We miss you, girl.
And so, that was the debate. These adult children, and, sometimes your adult children make you mad, and you want to just go off on them, and, it's totally inappropriate. No way in the world should these times are different. Times are different. I don't whoop my son like I got whooped. I mean, it's just different, This is where we are now. And so you have to adapt to the changes. You can't go around doing those things that we used to do. Times are different. These kids are totally different.
What do you think, Marvelous?
Well, I mean, I saw it live, and I said, okay, well, it will probably be a big deal. I mean, it was interviewed and said it was just a little disagreement.
Yeah.
So
you don't put your hands on nobody.
Yeah. Obviously, as they went into halftime, and the studio obviously went berserk, and
in the locker room.
Yeah. I mean, it's just I think that he probably crossed the line a bit, and it's because of television and everything else, it magnifies it.
Oh yeah.
So what do you say as far as the athlete was concerned to walk away, and when his coach is trying to get his head straight,
right,
going into the locker room?
Sure.
How do you respond to that?
I mean, as a parent, which I am sort of a coach, I mean, you don't walk away from me. I feel him because that disrespect, sometimes it lands a certain way. And, you got all the heightened pressure of this game and just everything that's going on. Everybody is kind of losing their minds a bit with the pandemic. You got to be careful. You just you can't pop off like you usually do. So I definitely
I mean, Draymond Green said that's what winning looks like. And then a former player, Brandon Wood, said it was one of the parts of Izzo's coaching style he respected the most. That situation going into the tunnel was nothing. He allows his players to challenge him, and he's coming right back at you. I bet he was hype after all that.
See?
Yeah, I was on Tom Izzo's side for this one. I was totally on his side for this one. And I like the analogy when you talk about Charles Barkley said it. And I'm sorry I didn't pull that soundbite, but it's two things. You don't walk away from your parents. You don't disrespect, and you talked about Kirk Franklin and his 33-year-old son. You don't disrespect your parents that way. You just literally don't do that. You're absolutely right. Times have changed. Because back in the day, you get your brains beat in. There's no question about it. You get your brains beat in. But it doesn't matter. You do not, under any circumstances, in my opinion, disrespect your parents like that. And when you're playing at a collegiate level, at a major program such as Michigan State with Tom Izzo, when he goes into the living room of these athletes to recruit them, he tells the parents, and most of the parents know how he is.
Sure.
He tells them, hey, this is how we run our program.
Absolutely.
I'm going to run it with a stern fist. I'm going to run it the same way you would run your house. There's going to be discipline. There's going to be structure, and there's going to be a pecking order. And the parents, they sign off on it because at the end of the day, he gets results.
Absolutely.
Either you're going to get your degree. You're going to graduate one way or the other. You're either going to go to the NBA and make a ton of money, or you're going to go into the workforce and get yourself a nice gig and be a responsible citizen in this country that we live in.
Absolutely.
So when he sits down in their living room, he tells the parents, and hey, listen, I'm an extension of you. And the parents say, you know what? If you got to kick his ass, kick his ass. And so Tom Izzo said, oh, you know what? I'm going to kick your ass.
Well,
you can, I don't care what the circumstances call for. You cannot disrespect authority.
Right.
You can. You shouldn't disrespect authority.
And
if their parents, if his parents say, hey, you know what, Tom, do what you got to do to whip my boy into shape. They do it in the military. Yeah, boot camp. They kicking your ass there. I don't hear anybody say, hey, you can't talk to my kid that way. You can't do that.
It's not on national TV.
But the point is, there are bigger stakes out there, right?
Yeah.
And these kids are in school, 18, 19, 20 years of age, maturing to become young adults and be responsible citizens in the society that we live in.
Yeah.
And you're right, Lauren. It's a new day. It's a new age. But it doesn't mean that kids should be able to run all over their parents and run all over the authority figures. Because you wouldn't let it happen in the classroom. What if he did it to his professor? I ain't giving you my homework. I don't need to do that. It's not going to happen. You can't do it.
Exactly.
Well, you know, if you heard the press conference, he said, you guys are beautiful. He missed a play, and I told him. He walked away, and I told him to come back. We went through this a couple years ago. A game like that, that's the question you're going to ask me? I guess I'll answer it because the media has the right to answer whatever question. It was a normal nothing. It's just that this day and age, everything is something. It was over a missed switch that we had talked about.
Yeah, and that's the disappointing thing with me. I was at home sitting on my couch in the Hall of Fame room watching this thing, and I clearly knew that the kid missed an assignment.
Yeah,
I said he missed an assignment, and my wife is not a big Tom Izzo fan based on things that have happened over the years watching it, right? She's an Illini fan, and again, Illini Nation, we're sorry for what happened, but she's like, he shouldn't be able to do that. I go, we know who Tom Izzo is, and we know what he's all about. I said, but the reason he's getting into this guy's grill is the fact that it was the end of the first half, and he blew an assignment, and this is something twofold. It gives the opposition momentum going into the locker room, but it also sends an indication to the team, Michigan State, to say, hey, you know what? We blew something, and we gave up something that can come back and haunt us in the second half. Hence, you go into the locker room to make the adjustments. Unfortunately, that, I think, triggered and carried over into the second half.
Sure.
Hence, that's why. And there was another skirmish on the bench for Michigan State as well. So there was already a lot of chaotic nonsense going on. And Lauren, you hit it right then and there. Partly, probably due. And we predicted this with Coach Dave Weber last week. Tensions are running high.
Oh, yeah.
This COVID is really getting people acting cuckoo. And it
Their
caught up to
kids?
Michigan State.
Oh, come
It caught
on.
up to Michigan State.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything is heightened. Everything is compounded. Things are totally exacerbated. They've been in the bubble, away from their parents.
Yeah.
These kids are going through a lot, and so...
I mean, Michigan State sneaked in there ahead of Louisville. I mean, I didn't think they were going to even get in the tournament.
Sure, I know.
Right.
It's to be expected.
It's unfortunate, but this gentleman, we love him, and he's a friend of the program, and we appreciate him taking some time to join us on the Rewind Sports 60 on this celebratory Sunday afternoon for the Loyola Ramblers, advancing again to the Sweet 16, but leaving a bitter, sour taste in the mouths of Illini Nation. He's a longtime scribe in the greatest city in the world, out of course, Chicago, Illinois, writing for I can't even remember, Chicago Sun-Times. He is a friend of the program, and one reason we reached out to have him on short notice is the fact that he's got a book out regarding the Loyola Ramblers and their first run toward a national championship in 2018. And who knows? They're going to try to go even further in this year, ladies and gentlemen. He's on our TRS60 hotline. He's the great Fred Mitchell. Fred, how are you?
I'm doing great, Jerry. How are you?
Hey, man, I think as far as I got on two hats. I got on the Big Ten Illini hat, which I threw over in the corner, and I got on the Loyola Ramblers hat, Fred Mitchell. They're doing it again, my good friend. They are doing it again. Your thoughts on the victory of the Ramblers knocking off a very, very tough Fighting Illini basketball team?
Well, I think Loyola surprised a lot of people because we had heard so much about Illinois and being a top seed and the potential national champion. The Illini certainly were favored, but Loyola controlled the tempo, controlled the boards throughout, showed a lot of poise, great teamwork, and really deserved to win the game, frankly.
Yeah, they certainly deserved to win the game, and we heard the comments of Porter Moser opening up the show. And the interesting thing that I found regarding the game plan for the Loyola Ramblers, first of all, the scouting report, they did a heck of a job. They did a heck of a job, and the fact that Porter Moser got his boys mentally focused to take on this very, very talented, deep Fighting Illini team, they came out slugging, and they never relented on that approach. And it was a clinic. It was a clinic put on by the Loyola Ramblers. And one reason I say that, Fred, is the fact that, again, with the scouting, but they matched up very well with this Illini basketball team. Did you feel that as well?
I did, and one of the sometimes underrated, underestimated quality of a winning team is defense. And Loyola really tightened the screws defensively, both in the backcourt and the front court, and caused Illinois a lot of problems in getting organized offensively. So that's the one thing that Porter Moser has always preached. And, whether you're making your shots offensively or not, good, solid, aggressive defense can take you a long way. And today Loyola had both things going for them, the great defense, and they were hitting their shots as well. So they really caused Illinois a lot of problems in getting started in their offense, and a lot of turnovers, and Loyola controlled the rhythm of the game, and that's one of the things that they pride themselves on throughout the year. It's like you're going to play to our tempo, and whether you like it or not, and that really caused Illinois some problems today.
Hi, Fred. Lauren Cox here. It's widely believed that player retention is one of the most important things in college basketball. Loyola's top 8 scorers were in the Ramblers program last season. Can you speak about how important player retention is, and what do you think that provided in terms of an advantage with them and the ultimate win that they had today?
Yeah, it's a good point, and I was thinking about the same thing a little while ago, how important the fact that Loyola has, a guy like Cameron Krutwig who's been in the program all 4 years. He experienced the Final Four season as a freshman and has had that experience throughout. I think in college basketball more and more, where you see some of these so-called upsets involve teams that have had players playing together for 4 years and show a lot of poise and knowledge of the system that the coach is trying to teach them. So I think that's a big factor for a school and a program like Loyola. Mm-hmm. I know Porter Moser always talks about creating a culture with the program, and when you can do that along with your players, so that by the time Cameron Krutwig is a senior, he can pass along the same thing to the freshmen coming in to the program without Coach Porter Moser having to say it. And this is the way we do things here. this won't be tolerated, that sort of thing. So yeah, that's a big factor especially for a school like Loyola that doesn't have a lot of one and done or two and done to the NBA type players.
Hey Fred, this is Dan in the studio here. How are you?
I'm great, Dan.
Very good. So I'm a little confused about one thing. Krutwig and Williamson are seniors. Is it, to your knowledge, is it true that because of COVID they're allowed to come back next year and play another year?
I'm not clear on that either. They may have an option, but I hesitate to say because I don't know, and it's kind of a fluid situation. Mm-hmm. But it would be interesting to find that out. I'm sure it'll come up.
Yeah, because obviously, when the teams are losing, Gumbel and others are saying how sad their careers are over. So that's why I was a little confused myself. But Porter Moser, he's had opportunities like at St. John's, and he'll have more opportunities to leave there. Do you think? I mean, he looks like the kind of guy that might want to hang at Loyola for until retirement. Honestly, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the one thing I remember him telling me a couple of years ago was that you don't run away from happiness. So he's happy at Loyola. They're paying him well. They're not paying him so-called crazy money at some of the bigger schools that are paying their coaches. But Porter feels quite comfortable in the city of Chicago. He's a Chicago area guy, and I would be surprised if he were to leave for a bigger program unless they just really offered him something.
Well, there's another opening in Chicago right now too, Fred.
No, I don't think that'll be happening.
I know.
I don't think that'll be happening.
I've heard that conversation as well. Yeah, I can't speak for Porter, and I know that he'll be courted, and people will ask at various schools, particularly after another run, however far this might take him. And frankly, he'd be smart to listen. If somebody wanted to make him an offer, and at the very least, Loyola can say, well, maybe we can't match it, but we'll bump you up even further in pay to convince you to stay. So I know it was a big deal for him a couple of years ago to have a new practice facility, which they do have now. So he feels that Loyola's on a par with bigger schools in terms of their practice facilities. And other than that, I don't know if he's of a mind to say he's going to be chasing more dollars or what's the most important thing in his life. We know that there could be a lot of pressure put on coaches who are making those bigger salaries, and the patience is not as long as it could be in some places. So he's got to consider that as well. So I think he feels comfortable at Loyola. He's obviously had some success. I remember covering him when I was at the Chicago Tribune in his first couple of years, and they were struggling, and he kept saying the same basic things that he's saying now as far as building a winning culture and recruiting players from winning programs. Those words kind of rang hollow at the time when they were struggling to win games. But in 2018, I was happy for him and to see the fruition of a lot of hard work, and now to see what's happening again this year is great, and I'm sure that helps recruiting. Nothing is better than winning as far as attracting top talent to your program.
We're on with the great Fred Mitchell. We appreciate you, longtime award-winning journalist, sports reporter, sports columnist, and I said Chicago Sun-Times, so my apologies. Chicago Tribune, a lifetime of Chicago. I want you to know that for sure. But Fred Mitchell joining us for a brief moment on the Rewind Sports 60 to celebrate the Loyola Ramblers' upset victory over the Fighting Illini of Illinois, 71-58, to advance to the Sweet 16 for the second time since 2018. And it's interesting, Fred, before we let you go, I had the great, my good friend, Mark Carmen, old stomping grounds at some of the other sports stations here in town. And back in 2018, we had him on the Rewind Sports 60 over at Serenello's in Wheeling, and we were talking about the Loyola Ramblers. And I asked him, I said, Mark, do you think that this is just like a flash in the pan or, just a one-time deal for this team? And he said, yeah. He goes, you won't see Loyola changing their culture and their atmosphere and being a contender year in and year out. I go, I don't know. Like you said, Porter Moser said, hey, I want to build something here, and here we are in 2021. And again, they're making some waves. Now, they got to take on the winner of Oregon State and Oklahoma State, which it might be challenging as well. But I think the fact that they were able to game plan against Brad Underwood. And again, congratulations to the outstanding job that program put together and the excitement they put together for their fan base in the Big Ten. But if Porter can instill in these guys to, stick to the plan and play outstanding defense and convert offensively, I mean, there's a big chance that they can, again, possibly, it's the March Madness, they can advance to the Final Four again, don't you think?
I think so. I mean, this team is arguably better man for man and depth wise than the 2018 team was, I think. So because of that depth and how they can bring guys in off the bench and hit 3-pointers, I think they're much more difficult to predict as far as what they're going to do. Like you said, Porter Moser has done a tremendous job of preparing the players, and there are enough veteran players, seniors, upperclassmen, who are sort of like coaches on the court, and you don't see them beating themselves too often. You don't see them turning the ball over a lot, making poor decisions, and that's all you can ask for as a coach. A coach can't go out there and execute plays, but he can emphasize the importance of good, crisp passing and moving, to the ball, helping out on defense, putting pressure, all those things are hustle plays. That's what they do for the entire part of the game, and I kind of think that they have enjoyed the role of the sort of the underdog. Mm-hmm. I won't call them a Cinderella anymore, but just an underdog. I think going into this game against Illinois, they had a chip on their shoulder, and we saw Sister Jean's pregame
prayer
message to the players, and they adhered to that, didn't they? She said, "Let's get on top of Illinois early, make them nervous," and she had a few other details in there as well. So that's exactly what they did. There were some times during this regular season where Loyola would start out slowly and then finally pick it up at the end. But if they get off to a good start, they're really, really tough to beat.
Yeah, in her prayer, Fred, I think she was quoting the shooting statistics, the 3-point shooting statistics.
Yeah.
Imagine they had one day to prepare for this. Now they have 5 days to prepare for the next game.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Real quick, she said,
she's a special person. She has always texted each one of the players and the coaches after every game, whether it's a win or a loss.
Wow.
Words of encouragement, go get them next time, whatever. She is really connected to the team, in a practical way as well as spiritually.
Fred, and speaking of their talent, some people are saying that they didn't think that the Ramblers were really an 8th seed, and some people are saying that there could be a committee failure on this one. What are your thoughts on their 8th seed in the first place?
Yeah, that's a good point. And, that's always a question every year. And it had to have been even more difficult for the committee this year with the COVID restrictions and things of that sort to get it right. So every year there's 2 or 3 upsets, and we've seen several already, right? With Ohio State losing, Purdue,
Virginia,
on and on. Yeah. It's just
the defending champs.
Well, you talk about the Cinderella, Abilene Christian knocking off Texas. They're the Cinderella.
Yeah. Yes. So you have a lot of that, and it makes you wonder if did the committee get the seating right, or are these truly wild upsets? So I think overall, I think you can say there's greater parity in college basketball than ever before, and that's a good thing for the sport. It can be frustrating for some fans trying to fill out their brackets, but truly, almost anybody can beat anybody throughout the tournament.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see. Hey, Fred, before we let you go, and again, we appreciate your precious time on this Sunday during March Madness, March Sadness for those who have lost. Most recent, the Fighting Illini of Illinois and Illini Nation. You got a book out. You wrote this book regarding the Cinderella story in 2018 for the Loyola Ramblers. Can you tell our listeners where they can pick up the book, where they can find it?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's called The History of Loyola Basketball, More Than a Shot and a Prayer. And it obviously chronicles the 2018 Final Four march, but also talks about the history of Loyola basketball. And one very significant chapter has to do with the 1963 NCAA championship team that not only won a national title, but broke some racial barriers in college sports in America, with 4 African Americans starting on that championship team, which was something unheard of, believe it or not, back in 1963. And they went on and won, despite a lot of challenges, shall we say, throughout that year. And they all went on to not only graduate from Loyola, but to get several postgraduate degrees. Vic Rouse, for instance, who tapped in the winning basket in the championship game, went on to get 2 master's degrees and a PhD. And Jerry Harkness was the captain. Just a great story that resonates even today, as far as groundbreaking moments of history that a lot of younger people may not be aware of, or not, all the details of it. So I tried to devote a good bit of the book talking about that team. And I know there's a documentary that's coming out soon about the 1963 Loyola championship team and the social ramifications of that team. So I'm looking forward to seeing that as well.
Awesome. Again, where can they pick up the book, or where can they find the book? It's a history of Loyola basketball, more than a shot and a prayer.
Yeah, I would say the easiest way in this online era of ours is either Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. You can order it that way. The Loyola bookstore has had it, both the downtown and the on-campus store also has it. But maybe the easiest way is to order it online, Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com.
Fred, here's what Sister Jean had to say regarding the Ramblers.
We're on a mission from God.
They're on a mission from God, Fred. They're on a mission from God. They're on a mission from God. Hey, Fred Mitchell, thank you so very much for taking some time out to join us and sharing this great victory for the Loyola Ramblers. And hopefully, we'll get a chance to see them next week, and let's see how far they can go for this March Madness. And for those teams, they have to bail out March Sadness. Fred Mitchell, you're always a friend of the program, and we appreciate you every single time. Thanks, man, and stay safe.
Thanks, Fred.
All right. Thanks for having me. Be safe. Take care.
You too.
He's the best, ladies and gentlemen. Fred Mitchell on our TRS60 hotline. And I tell you, from the victors to the spoilers, and, someone's got to win, Lauren, and someone's got to lose.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's just how sports is, and that's why we love it. That's how we love it. But you know what? As far as football is concerned, I mean, this story took a backseat. It took a backseat, believe it or not. It took a backseat to Loyola Ramblers. Mm-hmm. Thank God the Loyola Ramblers were able to, and again, I'm sorry, Illini Nation. But this story, Lauren, I had to text you this week. I texted you guys this week because Bruce Herron on our TR60 hotline. Bruce, I had to text everybody because when I heard the announcement, I got a notification on my phone. I swear to you, I almost went on the top of my roof and did a somersault to land on my neck because I couldn't believe that they did this. Ladies and gentlemen, on our TR60 hotline, you love him. He's a friend of the program. He's number 51 in your program. He's number 1 in our hearts. Former outside linebacker for your Chicago Bears, Bruce Herron, our TR60 NFL analyst, joining us on this TR60 Sunday to talk Bear football. And Bruce, help me. Say we're just dreaming, and I'm going to wake up in a second. Tell me we're just dreaming. The Bears did not just sign Andy Dalton as a starting quarterback for our 2021 football team. Say it ain't so, Bruce. Say it ain't so.
I can't tell you it ain't so, man. I'm in a position now, Jerry, where it is soaked in for a number of days, and I still don't believe it that out of all of the quarterbacks that were available, this is what we got. But there's got to be a reason for it.
It does.
And, I don't understand it.
Ooh.
I don't understand it. But they saw something in Andy Dalton during his 1-year stint with the Cowboys that they believe that he can take them to the promised land.
Where's the promised land, though? They going to a different promised land because it's not the one that everybody else is going to.
I know, man. I know. I just, I was a little dumbfounded when that happened.
Let me tell you something. Social media here in Chicago blew up.
Yes, they did.
Blew up.
Yes, they did. Can you blame
them? It blew up. It was unbelievable. Michael Wilbon on Pardon the Interruption went off. Stephen A. Smith was like, what the? Everybody, Mike Greenberg on Get Up. Everybody, because no one understood this, Lauren.
Unloaded.
Nobody understood it, Lauren.
Absolutely. Hey, Bruce, Lauren here. So,
hey, Lauren, how you doing?
Not too good, as you can imagine. When we interviewed George back in January, I asked him a question about, the quarterback, what does the future hold for our quarterback? And nowhere on earth did I think that Andy Dalton would be anywhere in the conversation and let alone be the quarterback.
I know, man.
And then they also let go of Fuller and just a number of, and they're saying possibly they're going to get rid of Hicks as well. So I want to ask you, what do you think the implications are in terms of Nagy and Pace? Because they're sealing their deal on Andy Dalton, essentially. What take us in their minds right now? Because, we talked to George. We kind of got our own idea of what ownership is thinking. But, these guys, their jobs are on the line. What do you think that they think about Andy Dalton as their quarterback?
I don't know. I really don't know. I've searched high and low to come up with an explanation with all of the guys that were available, and Andy Dalton is the chosen one. I really don't know, but I can tell you this much: they have got to be thinking that the quarterback of the future is in the draft, and that's what they're going after. And, but they did that, 4 years ago? And we still came up in it. And, so, I don't know, man. And when Russell Wilson's name and Deshaun Watson's name were tossed around and that the amount of capital that would have to be given up in order to get one of those guys, that wouldn't have been a smart move either. But then not only the quarterback situation, we got Akeem Hicks that you're talking about giving him the green light to go out and seek a trade.
Mm-hmm.
How's Akeem Hicks going to go out and seek a trade?
No.
Jesus Christ! I don't understand when people say that. That's just loud talk.
They lost Kyle Fuller.
Yeah.
Yeah, and let Kyle Fuller.
And we still got Jimmy Graham.
Well, see, I kind of understand. I kind of understand the Kyle Fuller move because, again, you talked about the salary cap. It's set at 182 million. So they had to make room. I understand that, and
we still got Jimmy Graham though.
Well, I don't.
Take that
well,
off the cap.
Jimmy Graham is kind of like a coach on the field for our boy Cole Kmet. He's like a coach on the field for Cole Kmet at the tight end position, and that's an area where the Bears have been struggling.
But for $10 million,
no, I kind of see that. I get it, but the Bears they're banking on these young kids that they acquired last year, right? And who showed some promise. And they're saying, based on the money that we have, these are the things we have to do. And, Kyle Fuller, I guess he got picked up by the Denver Broncos for a 1-year deal. So I understand making room for the cap space. But here's what scares me, Bruce, is the fact that, yeah, and I get that. Okay, Russell Wilson, the Seattle said, hey, you know what? He's not available.
And
so
they knew
I
that.
get it. I get that. And they don't want to wait for Deshaun Watson. And now there's a bunch of stuff going on with Deshaun Watson that they're digging up because of his position on him, personal assassination attacks, in my opinion. But I don't know the story behind everything.
Man, that's crazy.
That's ridiculous.
Crazy.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But what scares me about this regime, you talked about Nagy and you talked about Ryan Pace and George McCaskey, is the fact that I don't trust them to make a solid decision.
No.
I don't trust them to make. They're talking about we're waiting for the draft. We're waiting for the draft.
He's the man.
Well, he's the bean counter. He's the bean counter. So I get that. He's probably telling them, hey, this is all we can spend. Go figure out what you can do. But I don't trust the decision making in that room with those two guys up there, because even in the position they're in, they're bound to make Andy Dalton was your backup plan if you didn't get Russell Wilson? That's your backup plan? Are you kidding me? That makes no sense. Wow. That makes no sense to me, Bruce.
Yeah, man. I tell you, they've got some holes to fill, man. They've got to address the offensive line. They need a tackle or two. And I just, offensively, I just thought that they were going to go out and get a quality quarterback, maybe even draft a quarterback in the first or second round, a second round or third round. They can get a quality quarterback and see how it works out. And then if it doesn't happen, then next year, let's go get another one. They got to keep with the luck that we've had with quarterbacks. This team, I've heard one of the commentators this past week talking about the Bears. It wouldn't be a bad thing for the Bears with the kind of luck they've had with quarterbacks to every year draft a quarterback, whether it's the third, fourth, or fifth round, just draft a quarterback. And and I don't know, man. It's just puzzling. It is. It's really heartbreaking because I think the big problem with the Bears last year was a quarterback situation. But the biggest part was the defense didn't play up to their capabilities, and I was not a Pagano fan, and he was not getting the best out of his defense, and I was so glad for when it happened that he resigned and decided to retire, and then the say comes along, and I think that from what I've heard of him, I don't know much about him, but what I've heard, he's a really smart guy, and he knows how to get the guys to play. And if we can get our defense, back in the top 5 in the league, I think it will give our team a chance. But as we speak, man, I tell you, the quarterback position, oh my God, it's painful to watch. Yeah. It's just painful to watch. And we still got Foles on the roster. So.
I hope history repeats itself. They brought in Mike Glennon in 2017 and then drafted Trubisky at number 2. So, I'd like to see them get a quarterback in the draft. Now, Dalton is 33, but he's actually played 142 games over 10 years, and he got the Bengals, you can believe it, to the playoffs his first 5 years. So his best days are probably behind him. But, I can't figure it out either.
I'm not saying Andy Dalton is a bad quarterback. We all were expecting something better, something bigger, something bolder. And when it didn't happen, I think that is what people are so disappointed in. And so I don't know, man. Evidently they've got a plan. I don't know, they're not sharing it with us, but there's a plan. So there's got to be a plan.
Yeah, I mean they do have a plan, but again, I say it's not the right plan. And again, if you telling us that you're going after Russell Wilson, you're saying you're pursuing Russell Wilson,
hard,
and then Seattle
pursuit,
and then Lauren, then Seattle goes, well, you know what, we're not going to trade him. Then you go, okay, you're not going to trade him, okay. Let's get Andy Dalton. If that's your backup plan, that's a bad plan. That's a bad plan. That's like me saying, okay, I want a Lamborghini. I'm getting that Lamborghini. Well, sir, the Lamborghini is gone. Okay, well, can I have that Volkswagen over there? No. And no offense to the company of Volkswagen, but the point of the matter is, you don't scale down that much when you have a solid plan in place to get your team back into the winning ways.
They knew they weren't getting Russell.
Listen, nothing against Andy Dalton.
They knew
nothing against Andy Dalton. But he is not the solution for this team. If that's the case, and Lauren, I hate that I may even say this. But if that's the case, you should have just kept Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah.
I hate I said it, but you may as well just kept Mitch Trubisky.
He shuffled off to Buffalo where he isn't going to even start.
Yeah. Hey,
man. Bruce, we just had to get you on it and just pick your brain, bro.
And just beat you up, Bruce, because you were supporting those people. Talking about, I know them. They want to win. No, they don't. They want to win, but they don't want to win a Super Bowl. That's the problem.
There you go. They want to win. We don't know what they want to win, but it ain't the Super Bowl. We surely know they don't want to do that.
That's what I became president to after that interview.
Hey, man, a couple things before we let you go.
I want to apologize to you guys because I know you were expecting Bruce to have something great to say and this great plan that the Bears are on, but you know what? I apologize. I don't have that. I'm as befuddled as you guys are.
No, you don't have to apologize. Hey, we're thankful because this is our motto here is real sports, real talk, just plain real. And you're certainly keeping it real, Bruce Aaron. So we appreciate you for that. Hey, and talk about real. This guy's not being real, Bruce. It's our good friend Henry Hackney. This guy just texted me. He just texted me. He goes, I don't care what you. He goes. I don't care what you guys say on the rewind. Bears going to the Super Bowl. He said, okay, let's stop drinking this Mad Dog 2020.
Exactly.
That's your boy, man. That's your boy.
That's what we all need after this Bears week.
He's not drinking Mad Dog. I got to talk to him.
That's the Bears for you.
Hey, Bruce. Hey, man. The family doing okay?
Everybody's doing great, man. Everybody's doing great.
Well, that's great to hear.
I couldn't ask for it to be any better.
That's great to hear, and let's hope that we can get this beautiful country that we live in, as dysfunctional as it is. Let's hope we can get back to some sense of normalcy as well. But thank you as always, man. Thank you.
All right.
We appreciate you taking some time out. Take care, buddy.
Take care.
You're welcome.
Bruce Aaron on our TR60 hotline, ladies and gentlemen, joining us on the Rewind Sports 60, talking Bears. Andy Dalton. Before we go, one thing I wanted to throw out real quick, E.J. Liddell with the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Yeah, why did you do that?
No. Lauren, your thoughts on that?
It was sad. And when he sent the tweet out, my heart ached for him because you could just tell how he was disturbed by those comments that he received. And he basically sent out a tweet. And his tweet, when he sent that tweet out, he said, honestly, what did I do to deserve this? I'm human. And, everybody who doesn't know, you can definitely just Google it and see the harmful, harsh horrid remarks that people made. You know, this young man scored 23 points. He grabbed 14 rebounds, and he still got death threats. He's
but he
20
missed
years
a free
old.
throw.
Yeah, you know, utterly ridiculous.
At the end. Yeah.
But this is what our country has come to. No civility, no respect, no decency.
Cowards.
These are kids. You're going to put this on the World Wide Web? You know, please. I just... totally disgusting.
Yeah, one comment was, "You are." This is a quote from a fan who wrote, "You are such a effing disgrace. Don't ever show your face at Ohio State. We hate you. I hope you die. I really do."
See,
I mean that it's, you know what? It's hurtful and embarrassing for me as a Buckeye to hear Buckeye fans even utter those remarks,
and
utter those words.
Were they students?
It didn't necessarily say it was. Who knows?
Yeah.
But the fact, and Charles Barkley cleaned it up as well and said, he said, "This is why I don't get on social media, because all you cowards sitting at home on your computer where nobody knows who you are, put this BS out there, being a coward. I'm not going to subject myself to that behavior, and this it's ridiculous." And you said 20 years old, and this kid trying to get an education and trying to better his life, and he's got to. Hey, it's crazy times.
Now, some people were saying that the gambling aspect of it, this comes into play in terms of people.
I heard that too.
You know, they're not feeling the loss like a normal fan would. Well, that's your problem.
I heard that too. And here's the thing: Ayo DeSumo, he only had 9 points in this game against Loyola. I heard the rumblings that with E.J. Liddell and Ayo, that maybe because of the gambling. I'm not saying that.
That they did something.
That something
through the game.
Because Ayo had 6 turnovers in the game against the Loyola Ramblers. They played stellar defense against them, but you wearing that mask and you say, "Hey, is he the Black Mamba or he the Mask Mamba or whatever? What do you call himself? Whatever the case he called himself, he didn't step up." Any closing thoughts before we get out of here?
Yeah, I mean, one final thought on Loyola. It's amazing. The thing to me is, I mean, there's only been one other tournament since they were in the Final Four. So it seems like just yesterday they play an arena that doesn't even have 5,000 people, and they're not even on local radio. I mean, it's an amazing story. I mean,
it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And Porter Moser said, "Hey, listen, this isn't a pro town. This is a sports town."
Absolutely.
God bless them. Congratulations to the Ramblers as they move on to the Sweet 16.
And they'll be in the Elite Eight by next week if all goes well.
Thanks to our guest, Fred Mitchell, the great award-winning sports journalist, writer, columnist, joining us on the Rewind Sports 60, and former Bear linebacker. Of course, Bruce Heron. Thanks to you guys, Lauren Cox, and of course the marvelous one, Dan Marver, and our fantastic producer, Devin Tingle. It's been another edition of the Rewind Sports 60. Folks, have a great rest of your Sunday. Enjoy the week, and we'll see you next time right here at WCPT 820 AM.
Relax, reset, rejuvenate. Go to our link right now to restart your life. TheRewindSports60.com. What are you waiting for? Hope to see you soon. The Rewind Sports 60.
Congrats on the deal. I'm curious what your personal reaction was to getting the reward for last season, and then when you reflect back on last year, just kind of what you take away from being able to find that comfort zone for a very long stretch of time.
First of all, thank you. I was telling my agent all along the process, I'm rooting for this thing to work out. That's where my heart is to remain with those guys. I think first and foremost, I want to thank the McCaskey and Ryan Pace for their vote of confidence in me. I always felt like, within my family and, my agent, I always talked about Chicago as a chapter, an unfinished chapter back in 2017 for me. It's because I saw the people that were in that organization from top to bottom and the care that they took from me when I went through the injury and surgery. And I just wanted to give back in any way. Unfortunately, I wasn't part of the team anymore until this year. And what I put in the field is with those people in mind. Just it's a form of me to say thank you for everything they did. So, and working with Tabor and Pat O'Donnell, Pat Scales, I think I would take that over anything, in this league. I think they were a group of guys that coming in as late in the process as I came in last year in the middle of training camp with 2 weeks left before, the first game, and to settle in so synchronized with those guys was a key to the success. So throughout the process, I was just hoping that this would work out, and it means a lot that we're going in with the same, the band is back together, the same group of guys. And I feel like we're already, so far ahead of the process. We're not going to miss a beat going to next year. So very much looking forward to progressing with the team and special teams.
Lane Kane.
Hey, Kyra, I think you've talked in the past about the difficulties of having to bounce from a bunch of different teams in the previous years. What does it mean to you to kind of have the stability of a longer term contract here?
Yeah, that's what I've been working for the last 3 years or so. Coming back and settling in the league again as the veteran that I was when I left Kansas City. And it was hard, between injuries and changing of coaching staffs and the teams that I was with, and not finding that perfect timing to be the guy. And I had the opportunity to become the starter there in Chicago, and it was sort of a 1 week to week thing, and I just took advantage of that to make it a long term. So yeah, to me, it's a dream come true to have a home again, something that I've been searching for the last several years. It means a lot to have that. I don't even call it stability, because you're always, as a kicker, you're always on your toes. But just to know that, to see the future more than just 1 week at a time.
Kevin Fishbane.
Hey, Kyra, I'm wondering what you learned earlier in your career about what it takes to repeat success. As a kicker, what's it going to take for you to be able to find what you had last year and do it again?
I think, it's sort of dumb maybe to think that, just not think so much about it. I think it's not overanalyze every little thing that you did. I think part of my success last year was just to respect the place. I think, as I was, getting the streak and many kicks under my belt, every day that I stepped at Hallis Hall or at Soldier Field, I had to respect what Chicago is, to be a kicker, and how hard that place is. So I think that helped me, just not settle in, like as far as like too much confidence and think that I won't miss because I'm kicking well. So it was more of like a feeling thing of like, step in that place and take every day as a challenge to thrive and win the day. So I think like, I'll just keep doing the same things as I did, my same routine that I've had with Coach Tabes and O'Donnell and Scales, and not change too much. So just kind of react to everything that, what I felt last year, and try to do more of the same.
Steve Leventhal.
Yeah, hi again. Congratulations. And two questions. One, some of it's been alluded to already, but one, what were some of the things that came into focus in this situation in Chicago that enabled you to basically make this, a permanent situation? And then the second, maybe not so serious question is, how do you like Chelsea's chances against Porto in the Champions League quarterfinals?
Yeah. So first question, I think at first it starts with the group. I think from Pace to down to Nagy, Coach Tabor. Those are the guys that are in command, and they just let us go free. I think especially Coach Taves, that he sees my potential as a kicker, and he just wants me to be exactly that, like nothing more, not be another guy. So just be my full potential, and that kind of helps me just take care of the little things and just making, kicks the way I do. And having the opportunity to go down a Soldier Field many times throughout the season before home games, I think that's a great preparation. That's not an easy place to kick, and the more you're down there gaining the knowledge, it also helped for away games when you feel a tiny breeze and you see kickers trying to play the wind too much, when I'm like, this is an indoor game compared to what I'm used to. So that allowed me to succeed away too. So and that's all I think part of, as it is a hard place to kick, but I think the challenge of kicking there and having the success that I was able to have gives me the confidence and assurance that it's gonna allow me to stay focused every single day to succeed and not get comfortable, which is important, I think, for you to just stay mentally sharp. So that's kind of, I think, what was the key to the success, having the core group, and the place just demands a lot of you, and you have to just come in ready to work every day. And the second question, I was pleased with the draw, and I was hoping that would be, not disrespecting Porto, but the other teams are very tough. And I think it's always fun to have a Portuguese matchup with, I think Chelsea's had many Portuguese matchups. They're exciting. And then we'll probably face, I think, Liverpool or Real Madrid, right? In the semis. So I think it'll be a good preparation for that tough environment.
Adam Hogue.
Hey, Cairo, I'm curious, as you were going through those years where you're trying to come back from the injury and you're bouncing around a little bit, how much doubt did you have to fight off that maybe you'd get back to this situation where you get a long-term extension?
A lot. I mean, there are parts of those years that I was still playing that I just didn't feel like I was popping the ball the way I used to. It to me is more clear now that having the season I had last year, that I got back to myself, and if not even stronger. It was a reassurance that really those years that I was playing in Tampa, just bouncing around, I was not as strong as I was this past year, and as strong as I wanted to be. So it was tough battling and doubting if I was going to be able to get there, just because the body was not responding to how I wanted to, because of, I think, so many scar tissues and all. So at times I wonder if you ever recover from these types of injuries, multiple injuries in the groin. And I think with just hard work and dedication and strengthen everything, and I think the mental work too, to just allow your body to push to the limits to get it stronger and break up those scar tissues, it allowed me to get to this place. So a lot of it wasn't if I could still be the accurate kicker that I once was, or the strong. It was just if my body was going to allow me to. That's going to be a big disappointment if I just couldn't get over that hurdle, which I did, and I feel stronger than the injury itself, and physically and mentally as I ever was. So I think I overcame something that it was more physical than mental.
Just a quick follow-up: where were you in that whole mindset last year when you signed with the Bears? Because you were unsigned. Did you think you were going to get an opportunity, and where was that confidence level at that time last year when you signed?
I think the biggest challenge was like, the whole COVID and NFL wasn't allowing workouts. So you just like, when is that going to come, or is it going to come this year? It was so unsure how the process was going to be for free agents. So, and I think it was scary just to like see how everything was going to work out for the veterans. If maybe more rookies were going to be called, for those kind of backup kicker roles that many teams had for COVID. So just so many question marks. In the year that I, really just one game I had with Tennessee last year that cost me my job, was going to be the, maybe the last thing that teams were looking at. So I got a chance to, as soon as workouts were allowed, I got a chance to go to San Diego and do a Coach John Carney kicking combine out there. And the Bears were one of the teams that were present. And I had a great day. That was the opportunity that for all those months from I got released till that was back in, I think, July. All those months, that was a preparation that you just weren't waiting for that one opportunity. So in me, I had the faith that it was going to come, and I just had to be ready for it. I think I was in a position that I had to take advantage of the next opportunity or it would be over. So I think I'm proud of the way everything worked out and where I ended up.
Pat Finley.
Cairo, where do you live in the off season? Is it South Florida somewhere?
North Florida in Jacksonville.
Jacksonville. How in the world do you replicate what you see in the winter here in the middle of the off season in Jacksonville, Florida? Can you at all?
No, and even if you could, I think it really, it's like that week of preparation is what matters most. That close to game day, I think, is what you go. When I go kick on Sunday, I'm thinking about the work I put in that week, and not so much the off season. So I think it's impossible sort of to replicate unless you've left your balls in the freezer overnight and went out and kicked it at 5 a.m. when it's like in the 60s here in Florida. But yeah, you just kind of take this time to get stronger and go out in the field and get the conditioning done. So when it's cold, you've already done the prep time to last long and in that type of environment, and trust the mechanicals that you put now are gonna also come out when it's 20 degrees or below.
Couple more for Cairo. Zach Pearson.
Hey, Cairo, you mentioned how difficult it is kicking at Soldier Field. Was there a specific moment, whether it was going down there for practices or a game, where you realized how tough it was? And then when did you kind of felt like you really hit your groove last year in the middle of your streak?
Yeah, I think early on in the season, I think Soldier played tougher the days that we went out there. I remember having this conversation with O'Donnell, and he's someone that I always try to listen to for advice in Soldier, for the experience that he's had. And there's a day that was playing really tough, and he just said, some days you step in here and you just have to respect the place and say, Soldier, you won today, but you're not going to win tomorrow. So you just kind of, and it's sometimes you're just kicking so well, but like the wind just kind of does its thing. And I think the grass plays tough too, and you kind of have to adjust that. But I think I started to really hit the strides after maybe the game winner against the Bucks, and going next week. I think it was the next week. Then I had my career long 55, and then the following week I had the game tying against the 51 against the Saints. So those kind of things just lift you up, to do in those types of moments. And the point where I was at to kind of I had to show something in my career. I think it was something that lifted me a lot, and then I just had to kind of stay locked in to keep adding up those moments.
Mark Grody.
Hey, Cairo,
it sounds like, just from listening to all the answers to your questions about kicking at Soldier Field, that you liked kicking at Soldier Field. Is that fair to say, or is that crazy?
It's crazy to say, but it's fair to say as well, because a place that I think it's so daunting to kick, and we see away teams come in and struggle. Many great kickers come in and have pre-games that they're just puzzled by some of the ball movements that they see, but just having that place to just use it as a weapon, to kind of sharpen your game. I think it played an advantage for me to not only deal with that 8 games during the year, but to go at away places and just having fun, because that wasn't a challenge. It was just the wins that I felt, it wasn't even going through my mind. It was just aim the ball down the middle and hit it the way you always hit, and then stay true. I was hitting lots of good balls down the middle, so it was fun. But it's a process that you have to just respect. And there are days that I'll be honest, I didn't kick well, but found a way to grind, and finish the day well, hitting the good sets and special teams periods. And that just comes with, you just wanting to win the day, win the environments every single time. And that becomes, almost a game within each day. You go out and you win that day, and you go. So it's kind of how there's no easy days. And I think that just I'm just going to be my B guy today, hit my B balls and just get through the day. No, I want to hit my A balls, and my worst kicks be the B balls, that sort of mentality. So so it was fun. And I think it's a place that, it's going to keep me on my toes, just wanting to succeed and be a better kicker more and more.
Last one for Cairo. Dan, go ahead.
Cairo, between now and the start of training camp, I'm curious where you'll train, who you'll train with, and kind of what the procedure will be between now and July.
Yeah, I think as at least me, I haven't heard what the ruling is, if we're going to have OTAs and all that, but I think I'm kind of expecting that we won't, and just kind of, like you said, get ready for when we are back with the team is ready to go. So making plans with O'Donnell and Scales to get together. I think as veterans, we understand the importance of just taking this time just to get stronger in the weight room and conditioning, and not demand so much your body from kicking a lot of balls now. So I think the time to start is coming in the next couple months to put ball to foot. And we're making plans to get together with those guys in the off season, and just kind of, like I said, just I think we're ahead of the process. So going back to them, we're just going to be more of getting your feet wet and ready to go, because I think I already in my mind I visualize what a Pat Scales perfect snap is, where a Pat O'Donnell hold is, and I just swing through. Making plans to get ready to go.
Those guys were both free agents also, so I imagine you celebrated a little bit when those deals came through as well.
Absolutely. I think it was a scenario that I wanted to happen, from when we left our exit meetings and stuff. We had great conversations, between us three and the coaches, and we were hoping to be back together. I think the three of us allows each one of us to succeed to our full potentials, and we help each other a lot in the way we work out and kind of push each other to grind a little harder in the weight room, to shag balls, to go kick at extra set or something, or go down a Soldier with them. It's an hour there, hour back, and we go with the mentality that we're excited to go there and work with each other, not so much of a hassle of making that trip, especially for them who they've had great success in that place. And it was more for me, I felt like, for the kicker, but they appreciate the work too. So I think it was very exciting. I think I had a tear in my eyes of just happiness having those guys together in the locker room.
TheRewindSports60.com. TheRewindSports60.com.
Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Sports Medicine Update, a weekly podcast by yours truly, Jerry Riles, and the Honorable Dr. Chad Padromas. Dr. Padromas is an orthopedic surgeon at Illinois Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Centers here in the great city of Chicago, Glenview, and, of course, down in Naples, Florida. And the orthopedic surgeon at Padromas Stem Cell Institute. He's also the editor-in-chief of the Anterior Cruciate Ligament, Reconstruction, and Basic Science. Doctor, how are you?
Doing great, Jerry. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. And I'm almost, I think the last time I talked to you, I informed you, and we'll get a chance to talk about this before the podcast is concluded. But about 7-10 days ago, I pulled the old hamstring doing the workout. And don't tell anybody on the treadmill. Don't tell anybody. But getting the body in gear for the warmer temperatures, warmer months, and I tweaked the hamstring, and so I'm trying to get that back to 100%. But I'd love to pick your brain and talk to you a little bit about the weekend warrior and those of us getting out there trying to get into shape. But before we get into this, Doc, I want to dive into, of course, March Madness. It's a fantastic time of the year. Unfortunately, a year ago, we missed it due to the pandemic and the shutdown of the government, and shut down the NBA in the middle part of March. And of course, March Madness, I believe, was just in the early stages before the NCAA put the clamp down on that. So unfortunately, we did not get an opportunity to crown a national championship on the collegiate level as far as basketball is concerned. Virginia is the reigning champs from a couple of seasons ago, but now we're in full gear so far in the bubble in Indianapolis. And as of this podcast, we've learned that there have been at least 6 officials who were scheduled to officiate these basketball games in the state of Indiana, leading to Indianapolis for the title game. Were sent home because one, I believe, tested positive, and he was in contact with 5 others. They actually went out to dinner at a steakhouse, and with the contact tracing, 5 others, a total of 6, were sent home based on the virus. And we also know that there's a player, one of the star players for Georgia Tech, who missed the first opening week of action because he tested positive for the virus. And again, we touched on it, but all in all, it's been really, really going pretty well. But I still have my doubts as far as the bubble and protecting these players, for the simple fact we're talking about 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. But from your perspective, from this first weekend of action, from what you've been able to see on the court, off the court, in the stands, the officiating, the whole 9 yards, your assessment so far?
I think it's great that they're doing it. And, as I've mentioned before, there's 2 issues. There's safety and there's convenience. So, COVID-19 should be treated like any other injury, and contact should be treated like any other injury. And you check it out and you see, and then people are out and they come back and other people play. And it's incredibly important, in my opinion, that they keep playing. I think, some people will be missing more players than others, but so what? And you reward people that are more disciplined, coaches, teams, they'll have less people getting infected, and good for them. So I think, as I mentioned before, the risk to the players approaches 0. The risk of serious illness in all of the professional athletes, baseball, football, hockey, soccer, basketball were nobody got seriously ill. Nobody had bad heart disease. A few people had positive enzymes. And those were in people in their 20s. In these college students whose average age is less, maybe it's about 20, I don't know, 19. Anything bad can happen anytime tragically, but the risk from the COVID-19 is less than, certainly no greater than the flu, and we'd never shut things down because of the flu. So these kids they're as safe as they would be any other time. You do have to be careful about high-risk people. If there are coaches or trainers or equipment people or ticket people or whomever that are older or higher risk, who are unvaccinated, then they should probably sit this one out. But it's very possible to protect those people. Let the younger people play, even if they get it. They get over it. The quarantine periods we now know can be much shorter. So I think it's good. The psychological problems of withholding sports, both from the athletes and the audiences, is huge. It's well chronicled. Depression, suicide, drug addiction, foregone medical appointments. This is for these young people. So it's incredibly important to keep it going. You absolutely can keep it going. The college football season, a well-known person said before the season when they were playing, somebody's going to die. Well, thankfully nobody did. And so I think they're doing exactly the right thing and handling it very well.
Hey, real quick, you mentioned something regarding COVID-19, the virus. Did you hear a study regarding the mask and how it protects people? That the numbers for the flu, which is typically, a flu season, as we know, October, November, winding up around this time. But again, estimated reports over years said that 25,000 to 75,000 people pass per year from the flu, which is surprising to me, learning those numbers when I learned them a few years back. But there's saying studies that have come out that said because people are wearing the mask and protecting themselves, that those numbers regarding the flu has plummeted. Have you heard those reports at all?
Yeah, I have. And that may well be true. And there's a lot of controversy over these numbers and what people really are infected with, and as to whether some of these COVID deaths really are flu deaths, and then the issue of how many people are dying with COVID and with the flu as opposed to from it. And so, yeah, no, they're out there. And you see, the thing is, and I'm in favor of masks. I'm in favor of social distancing. I think we ought to do it. Mostly, though, because on a risk-benefit basis, there's really no risk to doing it. And there's potentially significant benefit. But the data is conflicting, and it's controversial. There was a big study out of very good randomized placebo-controlled study out of, I think it was Denmark, that showed that masks didn't help at all. And there have been other studies showing that as well. So, I think they probably do help. But the point is, I don't think the reason to use them is because they're clearly a cure. I think the reason to use them is because in aggregate, the data indicates they probably help, although you can make the reverse case, and the risk is so low.
I don't think people are looking at it as the mask being a cure. I think most people are looking at it as being protection, so that you won't get sick. But I do want to talk with you regarding the world of sports and how it's affecting mainstream America, in particular the Black and Brown community, regarding the COVID-19 virus. And that there's speculation around the country and urban areas and major cities where the Black and Brown community are apprehensive to get the vaccine because they don't trust it, based on, as we talked about before and is well documented, the Tuskegee experiment and a number of other things that have been government run that's affected the Black and Brown community in the negative sense. Well, the latest is the virus, the vaccine for the virus. And think 13% of African Americans have gotten the vaccine shot. As far as the Latino Hispanic community, I think the numbers are 17 to 18%. And even in the Asian community, it's even lower than that. But when you hear about iconic figures in the sports world who are recently passed after getting the vaccine, the shot, one being Henry Aaron, the great home run slugger, 71 years of age, I believe, who got the vaccine, and then he ended up passing away. And just more recently in the news, it was Marvelous Hagler, the outstanding boxer, middleweight boxer back in the 70s and 80s, who succumbed to, well, he died, but that was recently after he received the vaccination as well. Then there's dispute surrounding that, if the vaccine caused his death or it was natural causes. But regardless of if it's a myth or reality, in the Black and brown community, it's the truth. And those are red flags sent to those people in the community to say, see, this is why you shouldn't get the vaccine, because you can't trust it. Have you heard that, and your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I've definitely heard it. And I applaud the Black and brown community, because the way the narrative is played out now, and I'm pro-vax, by the way. I think we should be vaccinating people. I think there are differences in priorities as to who we should vaccinate. And I think clearly vaccinating high-risk people is something that ought to happen. Why? Because high-risk people are at high risk, and the vaccine is clearly low risk. It's not no risk, but it's low risk. When you start getting down to young people, though, it's hard to know. The risks to these young people are exceedingly low. And the short-term risk of the vaccine is probably low, although none of them were approved yet for people under 16. But the other part of this is, what are the long-term effects of the vaccine? Well, if you're 80 with other diseases, long-term effects aren't really as much a part of the discussion, right? And short-term, the disease can be deadly, so go for it. When you start talking about teenagers, in whom their chances of anything bad happening if they get the disease is less than the flu, or certainly no greater, and then you say that, well, if you get the vaccine, I think short-term would be okay, but what is going to happen in 10, 20, 30, 40 years? No way to know. So I don't know. I subscribe to the Great Barrington Declaration. I discussed that months ago, which says that get the high-risk people and vaccinate them immediately. Prioritize. Ron DeSantis in Florida did that, to his credit. Governor Cuomo in New York and others in New Jersey didn't. I don't think they're bad people. I think they were doing it for the right reasons. They were trying to prevent a spread. So I'm not trashing either of those people. But I'm saying that policy-wise, I think the conclusion tragically turned out to be not right. So the thing is, the Great Barrington Declaration says, and for those of you not familiar with it, it was a philosophy signed by super smart epidemiologist doctors from Stanford, from Harvard, and from Oxford, who basically said, protect the high people religiously, and for the young people, just let them get it and get herd immunity, as would happen with anything else. So that wasn't allowed to happen with young people. So now, to get herd immunity in young people, you have to vaccinate them, pretty much. And I don't know. It's kind of a bit of a quandary. And I understand the argument for vaccinating young people. It's to get herd immunity so older people don't get it. And that's valid. It's a good point. I just think it could have been better, and still could be better, if you let the young people get it and then protect them from contact with older people. But, the dialogue is it's portrayed as being risky, and it's unpopular to say it. As to your point about the Black and brown community, it's so unpopular to say it, to talk about any kind of herd immunity, even amongst low risk people, that people are afraid to speak out. Honestly, I think the Black and brown community does a great service because of what happened to them in the past. If people in the Black and brown community speak out, their voices are heard. And I think it's an important voice. And, the thing of it is, it should be possible to say what I just said, that about masks, there's pluses and minuses. There's pretty much everything in medicine. But there is a lot of censorship now because people say, well, if you question any of this stuff, that you're anti-vaccine, or anti-mask. And I think you can be pro something, but say that, when I do surgery on somebody or anything I do to people, I tell them, I say, look, these are the risks, these are the benefits, this is how I see it, you make your decision. And most of the time, if I'm bringing it up, it's because the benefits are significant, the risks are low. But I still talk about the risks. I still talk about the adverse events, and people don't always decide the same thing. People hear data, and some people say, yeah, that sounds good to me. Some people say no, and that's as it should be. So I think we should be able to talk about this and talk about both sides of the issue without viewpoints being suppressed. And I think the Black and brown community is, and I think it's great.
No, I think it's important to address, and I think it's important for both sides to be able to express themselves openly and honestly without repercussions, because that's what our democracy is built on and our society stands by. And it's just unfortunate that we've lost two iconic. It's unfortunate that we've lost anyone over the past 12, 13 months to this virus. But as important, the two individuals, the iconic individuals that we just recently lost again, and Henry Aaron, the great all-time home run slug hitter, and of course, Marvelous Hagler, the great outstanding boxer. But it is sending, ripples throughout the Black and brown community regarding this vaccination. And it's certainly going to take some time. Dr. Chad Padromas on the weekly podcast, the Sports Medicine Update. Yours truly, Jerry Riles. Regarding the virus and the vaccines and sports, baseball is just a matter of a couple weeks away from opening day. Our Cubs and White Sox will be opening up, at the end of this month, March, and of course, the start of the first week in April. So sports fans and baseball fans are certainly looking forward to that. But we understand that down in Texas, the Rangers, they pretty much said, hey, listen, we're going to allow full capacity to attend our opening day ball game and, of course, the opening weekend. And I believe the stadium carries somewhere around 40,000 folks, between 30 and 40,000 fans. And they're saying we're opening up to everyone because we feel that we've gotten around the turn, we're past the curve, and we're certainly at the light at the end of the tunnel. We're here locally in the Chicagoland area. Mayor Lori Lightfoot said, we're still going to test the waters. We're going to take a baby step forward. We're going to allow between 8,300 and 8,500 fans to attend the first week of baseball action on the south and north side, respectively. Your thoughts on the discrepancy as far as numbers are concerned to bring fans back to the game in this pandemic era that we're living in?
It's tough to know. And, number one, we don't know. And number two, when we try things, because it's a laboratory, it's one of the great things about our federalist system, if you will. It's not communist China where the government says one thing and everybody does it. And there's great virtue in trying different things that are reasonable. I think allowing full capacity where we stand now is reasonable. I think Lori Lightfoot's position is reasonable too, honestly. And I will say this to you. I think for all of the policy changes that have occurred, in general, especially recently, the consequences of greater freedom have bad things basically haven't happened. And so I think I would kind of err on the side of greater freedom. And, you know, one thing that's ignored, by the way, is that we kind of say, well, the government tells you what to do. Well, I don't know. Can't people make up their own decisions? If you're going to go to a Rangers game, right? If you're old and sick and haven't been vaccinated, you're probably not going to the game. And, you know, I don't know if you're a middle-aged, obese male, a little higher risk, and you haven't been vaccinated and you're willing to go, aren't you entitled to take some risk? Now, the argument is that if you take a risk with yourself and it has huge societal consequences, and because of your aberrant behavior, lots of people get sick and the hospitals get overcrowded, and the ICUs get overrun. Yeah, that's bad. But I just have faith in people in general. And I think the young people inherently get it, that it's pretty safe for them. And I think the old people that I see, by the way, are absolutely terrified. So they don't need a mandate from above. I have my older patients, half of them won't leave the house until they're vaccinated.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah, so I don't know. I think, let's see what happens. But I can tell you, and I have a satellite office in Florida, in Naples, and I go down there regularly. I can tell you it's very open down there. And restaurants and whatnot, people still wear masks, you know, here and there. I think people try to be cautious. It's very open, and they've done well. So I think that's maybe an indication that opening things up more is a little better, and it's been good for society in a number of ways. So I don't know. I don't know if full capacity is too much. Maybe it is, but I think if it is, we'll know pretty soon. I don't think it's crazy to try it, you know. And Lori Lightfoot's 8,000 people in a 40,000 seat stadium. I mean, she's doing her best to figure out the best thing. If it were me, I'd probably be somewhere in the middle. You know, I think you could get a lot more people in there without having everybody breathing down everybody else's neck, literally, literally. I think, though, people have gotten very upset with government, and over and over, that government restricts people, but they don't follow the restrictions. So you make government people follow their own restrictions. Maybe they're a little more empathetic. So I think the civil disobedience, if you will, I went to school in the Vietnam era, right? So, if something was bad, people protested. So I think restrictions are pretty intense. People protested. Gavin Newsom, they're going to have a recall election, whether he loses his office or not. I'm not smart enough to understand. But I think it sends a message that maybe things were a little too harsh.
Hey, Doc, before we go, I do want you to clear some things up again. We talked about the word cure regarding COVID-19 and the vaccinations. Can you clearly define what it means when a person gets vaccinated and how that affects their everyday life afterwards? And what does that mean to their family members, their friends, and people that they come in contact with? Because I think that there are some discrepancies out there as far as the vaccination, the virus itself, and what happens once you get it.
Yeah, it's a matter of interpretation. Nobody knows for sure. There's different schools of thought on this. So should you wear a mask after you've been vaccinated? Well, Dr. Fauci, I think, and others are saying yes. And why? Well, they're saying the vaccine will prevent you from getting seriously ill if you get ill, and probably getting ill at all. But it's argued that, you can get some of the viruses in your nose and spread them to other people, and asymptomatic spread. Nobody knows. The narrative tends to be colored toward the greatest possible caution. And I think that being overly cautious carries a price. So, the whole idea of asymptomatic spread is kind of questioned. I mean, Jerry, there are fundamental. So the answer is nobody knows. It depends what you think. There are people that think, first of all, if you get it at all, should you get vaccinated? I mean, you can make a strong case that you shouldn't, but there are others who can make a case that you should, because, well, you could get a variant or you could still transmit it to people. And if you've been vaccinated, should you wear a mask? It's kind of all over the map. But I will tell you this. And I think people should draw their own conclusions. And by the way, I kind of have more faith, to tell you the truth, in common sense than I do in a lot of the wonky studies. And we analyze wonky studies. I have data analysts, doctors, and we analyze methods of these things and publish papers to see if the results are valid and all that. And I'll tell you, it's very tricky. So, you know, you can come to lots of different conclusions based on data that other people wouldn't come to. So I think, you know, basically, when before have we had people getting vaccinated and then they have to wear masks and they have to do all kinds of precautions afterwards? I mean, not really, you know. So kind of a common sense thing. I think that, let me just bring up one other thing, something for people to look at if you're reading, you know, and I would encourage people to read. So, you know, there's PCR and these tests for whether you've got viruses, quote unquote. Well, you know, there are viral particles that set off these tests. And these tests can be set at different levels of sensitivity. The tests in the US are very sensitive, much more so than some countries abroad. So what does that mean? That means that these tests are picking up live viruses that are bad, that can cause you to infect other people. They're doing that. That's great. But they're also picking up particles of virus that have no chance of contaminating other people. And so, you know, have you cleared the virus? Is the test negative? Well, there are people with positive tests that aren't symptomatic, aren't contagious. But then the argument goes, how can you tell? So, you know, glass half empty, half full. Are you, you know, how, you know, what do you think? I only bring this up to tell you that these tests and these arguments are nothing like absolute. And the unfortunate thing that happens a little is that I think sometimes people in positions of power want conclusions to be drawn. They think everybody's got to get vaccinated. And so, you know, if we have to, how shall I say, not tell all sides of the data story, well, that's okay. Because, you know, the thought is, well, if we tell people that maybe masks aren't effective, and probably they are, but maybe they're not, then people will stop wearing them. Or if we tell people other things. So I guess all I'm really saying is the direct answer to your question is nobody knows the answer. The other part of it is that I think people are pretty smart. I think lay people are pretty smart. And I think you should just read and question.
Sounds good. I'm glad you mentioned lay people as well. And as a lay person myself, I'd like to address this before we're out of here. As we talked about at the start of this podcast, the warmer temperatures are certainly hitting the Chicagoland and the Midwest area, meaning 50, 60-degree temperatures. That means many of us are, you know, eager to get out and start doing some walking, some running, some exercising, some working out. And that includes yours truly, for sure. And as I touched on, I talked about I tweaked my hamstring a few days ago. And right now, walking around, I feel I'm at 97%. But if I put any other stress or pressure on it, meaning try to do a light jog or run, I feel that pull again on my hamstring. For us weekend warriors out there, and those of us trying to get into shape for the summer months to get that beach body on, what are your recommendations on, one, preventing injuries, and two, nursing injuries, such as, i.e., the hamstring that I recently pulled?
So I tell you, Jerry, I've got a very specific philosophy that I believe very strongly in. That isn't, and it's mainstream stuff. It's just not necessarily what's always offered to people. And if you go to our website, it's ismoc.net, and look at a link that says "No pills, no pain," it elaborates on it. But basically, it goes like this. It says that several parts of your question to answer. Number one, how do you nurse it? Very simple thing. If it hurts at all, don't do it. And number two, don't take anything that mitigates the pain, that decreases the pain. The pain is your friend. And you get better the fastest if you don't take pills, anti-inflammatory pills, analgesic pills, If you don't put braces on it, which suppress pain, if you don't put patches on it, which suppress pain and mask pain, if you don't do any of that stuff, your body, for 99% of what goes wrong with you, you don't need me. You don't need guys like me. You don't need doctors. We're evolved over millions of years to get sprains and strains and heal them. All you need to do is listen to your body and just leave it the heck alone. And if you do that, like with your hamstring, it'll get better and you'll know. So that's the main thing. Listen to it. If it hurts even a little, don't do it. Never take pain-killing medicines. They will absolutely make you worse, because you might get better anyway. You probably will, but it's going to take longer, because if you can't feel the pain, you're more active than you should be. You damage it more. Plus, for example, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs have a significant anti-healing component to how they work too. So why would you do that? Now, is the other how to prevent it? Just start really slow, and it's tough. Especially in Chicago, it's 20 degrees, and then one day it's 55. Like, oh my God, everybody runs out. And but just start slow. Just take it easy. Give yourself 48 hours, probably more, of recovery. Get warm. So physically warming yourself. So getting out there with a pair of sweats, making the muscle warm, makes it more elastic, less likely to get hurt. Should you stretch first? Got to be careful. If you're going to stretch, don't stretch cold. So get sweats on, jog around a little, get a stationary bike a little, get yourself warm, and then stretch. I will tell you that the evidence that stretching helps prevent injuries is very, very flimsy. But aggressive stretching can definitely cause them. So honestly, you just get into things slowly. Give yourself a few days between doing what you do. Ramp up slowly. If it hurts just a little bit, stop. Don't take pills. Then you're, then I think you're good.
So how do you handle and thank you so much for that. How do you handle your workout? Say you're 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 10 weeks into your workout, and you've developed a good pace, a good routine, and suddenly, you tweak a hamstring, or you happen to twist an ankle, or you have, a little minor ailment or injury parts of your body. With your directions or your philosophy on how to handle things, how does that affect your workout moving forward while you're trying to nurse this injury that you have?
You try to meet your goals in other ways. So, if you're a runner and you can't run, maybe getting a stationary bike, low resistance. You can get an Aerodyne bike if you got a sprained ankle and just use one leg on the pedals. And then you've got to bite the bullet. What happens is that once you're into it, you want to keep on doing it, and then you're injured and you can't, and it's just the siren song. It's seductive. All these commercials saying, don't let pain stop you, take these pills. I mean, you couldn't give people worse advice. You just couldn't. And so you just have to bite the bullet, do less. If your legs hurt you, work on your upper body, work on your core. If your shoulder hurts, do other things. Because if you push it through pain, you're going to be out twice as long. Bad things happen.
Well, I hate to think about it, but I know my trainer that I work with, occasionally he tells me, Jerry, push yourself. No pain, no gain.
No,
and I want to say, my doctor, he said, no, that's not the philosophy. That's not the logic. But he goes, come on, Jerry, no pain, no gain. Push, push, push.
I got to tell you, how about maybe like no strain, no gain? What do you think about that? Because you do have to push yourself. No question. You got to push yourself. But, there's almost never a time. Pain is just bad for you. And maybe if it's the seventh game of the World Series, or it's a championship game and whatever, and you got time to recuperate. But it's just, and we see the difference in professional athletics now. When these guys get hurt, they're making 8 figures a year. They don't get pushed to play through it because they're valuable commodities. So, or get, shot up with cortisone and go back in. So yeah, tell your trainer with all due respect, tell him from me, say, what do you think? I'm sure he's a great trainer. Say, what do you think about no strain, no gain?
Yeah. I like it. I
don't like strain either, because that's a medical term for injuring a ligament or a muscle, but it's much better than pain, in my opinion.
There you go. But I always think about you when he tells me that. And in closing, it's interesting you talk about the different athletes of today's era, the amount of money that they make, and you're absolutely right. Whether it's LeBron James or well, Patrick Mahomes, he fights through the pain. Tom Brady fights through the pain. But you see athletes today, in comparison to back when we were coming up, they get a little, just a little slight tweak or a little irritation regarding their bodies, and they're sitting down, and at times they're out. And we know about the NBA, how these players, hey, I can't play tonight. I'm tired. I can't go. Uh, Whereas back in the day, Michael Jordan, we talk about the great Walter Payton, Gale Sayers. I mean, those guys will pay. They play through pain like nobody's business. But the money has really determined, because these guys today are making so much money, it's important for them to be 100% healthy and get the most out of that contract, as far as the owners are concerned. Then to play through the pain. Is that good in your opinion?
I don't know. I go back and forth on it. I think there's some things you can play through contusions, maybe. Walter Payton famously, he missed one game and he didn't want to sit, and he dislocated his toe, I think. And he said he wanted to go, and he probably could have. Walter Payton also was, as everybody knows, was just ridiculously well conditioned. That famous hill, I think it was in Arlington Heights, right? So you see with athletes that are well conditioned, and they stay healthier. So I don't know. I mean, you just gotta you just gotta know what things. I think sometimes the increased injuries are due a little bit with maybe even excessive training. But it's hard. But yeah, I think playing through injuries, being tough is one thing, but you need a smart doctor, smart patient, smart athlete, smart trainer to know the things that maybe you can play through a little bit. But in general, if you're hurt, just sit.
Yeah, I agree with you, Doc. Listen, you talked about your website and how people can get in contact with you if they have any questions or concerns or issues. How do they find you again?
So our website is ismoc.net. That's Illinois Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Center.net. And our phone number's on there. It's 847-699-6810. So we're happy to help. We've got all kinds of good information up there. Videos on how to work out, information about nutritional supplements, other things. So feel free to browse. Feel free to call us if we can help.
Sounds good, and we certainly can help. There's no question about it. Dr. Chad Prodromos, thank you as always. It's great information. Look forward to reading up and finding out more, and look forward to seeing you next week to talk on the Sports Medicine Update, my good friend. Take care of yourself, enjoy the weekend, and give my best to your beautiful family.
Thank you so much, Jerry. Likewise.
Dr. Chad Prodromos, take care.
TheRewindSports60.com. TheRewindSports60.com. Relax, reset, rejuvenate. Go to our link right now to restart your life. TheRewindSports60.com. What are you waiting for? Hope to see you soon. The Rewind Sports 60.